real cases before a real judge.
Plaintiff John Griffiths II says he and the defendant, who is his brother, both have a history of using crystal meth. John claims after he went to prison, he got sober and has been clean for 54 months. However, he claims the defendant failed to clean up his act, and he's suing for a loan and funeral expenses. Defendant Theodore Griffiths says John is 8 years older, and he always wanted to follow in his footsteps, including when it came to committing crimes and using drugs. Theodore says he sobered up 2 years ago, but admittedly relapsed after his mother passed away. He's countersuing for breach of contract.
Give me some background.
All right. I got a history of drug abuse. I was in prison. Come out of prison after 54 months with a changed attitude, different outlook on life. Lived with my parents, and my brother at that time was running around out of control. My parents didn't want me to have no contact with him because they didn't want me going backwards at that point in time. So I was still catered to him. He was in motel to motel. I'd go pay for his motel rooms, you know.
Drugs also?
Yes.
What type of drugs were you guys?
Methamphetamines.
You and he? That's both of you?
Yep. So after I was out, like I said, I got 54 months sober now. Since that time, it's been a struggle with him off and on. He's been sober apparently for the last 6 months, which is great. But my parents died in this time frame. Mm-hmm. So when my mother passed away, he showed up before she passed away, kind of stuck around for a bit, then disappeared. My father ended up moving in with me from loneliness from my mom being gone. He lived with me for about 11 months before he passed away. So when he was diagnosed, I contacted my brother to give my brother the option to make sure that he could see him, you know what I mean? So I let him back into my life, let everything, you know, go its steps, and the whole time my dad's telling me he shouldn't be there because he's just gonna use you just like he did his mom, and so on, and accumulating debt. So when my father passed away, I did the reading of the will to my brother, because in the will it stated that my brother wasn't to get anything because he went $7,000 into debt to my parents. Him and my sister both owed him that money. So read that to him, kind of felt guilty about it. He came to me on the 10th of April asking for help with a truck so he could get to and from work. So I thought about it, didn't want to do it. Contacted his sponsor where he was living. Told his sponsor my concerns. His sponsor told me that TJ was a different individual, that he'd been doing what he's supposed to do, and things are different with him. So I loaned him the $1,500 for this truck. I got a history of drug abuse. I was in prison. Come out of prison after 54 months with a changed attitude, different outlook on life. My brother at that time was running around out of control. He was in motel to motel. I'd go pay for his motel rooms, you know.
Drugs also?
Yes.
What type of drugs were you guys?
Methamphetamines.
You and he? That's both of you?
Plaintiff John Griffiths II is suing his brother, who claims he always wanted to follow in John's footsteps, including when it came to using crystal meth.
We'll get to the loan and whether he repaid you. Let me hear from you, sir.
Your Honor, my brother is 8 years older than I am. For years, you know, of course, I wanted to be like Big Brother, and I followed in his footsteps.
Dresses like him.
Say he dresses like him too. That's right.
From crimes to drugs. In January of 2010, I checked myself into a treatment program.
And that means you really wanted it?
Yes, absolutely. I had reached a desperation point. When I got out of that treatment program, I lived with my mother. And I was with my mother until she passed in May of that year.
You were only there for 2 days and you walked out.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that's incorrect, John. After Mom passed, I wasn't able to continue the path that I was on, and I ended up relapsing.
What about the loan? Did you agree to repay it?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
All right. Now, let's hear about what happened with the loan.
The 13th, we buried my father, and at that point in time, he stepped forward and wanted to be part of my dad's funeral expenses. He volunteered. I had nothing to do with asking it of him because he was having a hard time. I have the text messages from him.
Let's see it, please.
Thanks.
Money is in the account till judge says what? But is there anything here where he volunteers initially, where he just says, okay, I'll pay some? Or is this kind of, this looks like a collection type
No,
These look
down where
like
it's marked
collection
out,
conversations.
where it says funeral or whatever, that's the only text message I had from him making acknowledgement of the funeral cost and him referring back to an insurance policy that the parents didn't have to pay for that.
So tell me,
There was $45,000 in insurance policy plus the $30,000 that was in Dad's account, John.
I have all that here.
did he ask you for funeral expenses?
He did at the time.
And did you know all of that about the insurance?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell him that's why I'm not paying?
Yes, I did.
What did he say?
He said that he would cover it because he was getting the money from the account.
Mom had insurance, so we wouldn't have to cover the cost. John, didn't you say to him, well, I hope you got my truck payment? You said on the 1st, a money order mailed tomorrow. He doesn't agree that he should pay funeral expenses on here unless I'm missing something.
Right, it's just that the topic was brought up there. It doesn't decipher plate it out, so I apologize, Your Honor.
All right, so is there a reason you don't think you owe the money you borrowed?
My father, him, and myself had a conversation. I'm recovering, and cleaning up the wreckage of my past. And one of the things that I'm working towards getting is a license. And my father had stated that he wanted me to get that out of the money that came out of the bank account.
That's a blatant lie.
I have a statement here from. It's not a blatant
No,
lie.
that is a blatant lie.
You weren't there.
Yes, I was.
Be quiet, ma'am. You can't speak out of turn.
And then here's this one also.
What are these?
That is a letter from my sister stating that she heard the
please.
conversation. That is a letter from John's oldest daughter stating.
Saying what?
Well, okay.
You didn't owe anybody other than him.
Let me go back a little bit here, sir. July of 2005, when our father passed away, Johnny stole credit cards and used them, and admits to doing that in here. There's just a long history of it. I have an email here from Johnny in October of last year, basically saying that he had separated Dad from the whole family, and how did I feel to not have a family? Ha ha, I told you not to mess with me.
Okay. Now, what about the loan?
The loan, when I inquired to John at the end of April about the money for the license, he told me that I wasn't getting it.
Okay, but we're talking about the loan he gave you.
So I was supposed to be receiving $4,200 to receive my license. Okay, that was agreed upon between John, myself, and my father.
That you were to get money for your license.
Correct.
Let's get to the loan.
Okay, when I asked him about the money for the license, he told me I wasn't getting it.
What does that have to do with the loan?
It doesn't have anything to do with the loan,
I
Your
didn't
Honor.
think so. Well, don't tell me anything that doesn't have anything to do with the loan. Now, the funeral expenses, you say he owes you half. Did you pay for all of it?
Yes, I did, Your Honor. Well, no, I paid for what the VA wouldn't pay for. I paid for the cremation and the commingling of my parents' remains and the bagpipes.
Okay, and that amount was how much?
It was $1,200 and some odd dollars. I don't have the amount with me.
What did he say? He said he would pay for half?
Yes, Your Honor.
So that would have been $600 or so?
Yep.
All right, and when was the last time you all discussed it?
The day of the funeral. And that was the last time I
What did he say?
spoke to him in face. He told me that he didn't feel that he should have to pay it because Mom and Dad had an insurance policy that covered funeral expenses.
But had he agreed earlier?
Yes, he did, Your Honor.
No, I did not, Your Honor. So I was supposed to be receiving $4,200 to receive my license. Okay, that was agreed upon between John, myself, and my father.
That you were to get money for your license.
Correct.
Let's get to the loan.
Okay, when I asked him about the money for the license, he told me I wasn't getting it.
What does that have to do with the loan?
It doesn't have anything to do with the loan,
I
Your
didn't
Honor.
think so. Well, don't tell me anything that doesn't have anything to do with the loan.
Plaintiff John Griffiths II is suing his brother, who claims he always wanted to follow in John's footsteps, including when it came to using crystal meth.
All right, let me hear from him, sir, on the funeral expenses. He says you agreed to pay.
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mom had put the policies in place a long time ago so that we wouldn't have to cover the costs while we were dealing with her loss. I also out-of-pocketed, put up money for all the flowers at the funeral that I haven't asked for, I don't care about. It was the funeral. I mean, it just,
So you never discussed paying?
Correct.
And so that's the only way you can bind him. You can't be bound by morality to pay expenses of a deceased person. You can only be bound by what you agreed to do. And some people just don't want to help. And so he says he never agreed. Do you have any evidence on that? Ma'am, you've been wanting to say something. You want to come on up?
Stand, please.
State your name.
Marissa
What do you want to tell
Fullerton.
me, particularly about these funeral expenses?
The funeral expenses, he did agree on the 13th to bring in flowers for the funeral, but prior 3 days before that, he had agreed to my dad to pay half of the funeral costs. I was in the living room of my grandfather and my father's house when he was coming over there to visit whatever.
Do you remember that, sir?
I do not remember having that conversation with her in the room, no.
How much did you pay for the flowers?
For the flowers, it was just under $100.
You all the only surviving siblings?
Yep.
Why don't you think you should have paid half?
Because that's what Mom had the life insurance in place for.
Okay, you have something, anyone have life insurance that says says who the beneficiary is,
That's that
and it
here.
instructs the beneficiary to pay for the
It's a copy this is a
out
copy
of that?
the will.
All right.
I'd like to
statement.
point out that the copy of the will he is holding, our mother passed away on May 13th. On May 31st, Johnny had everything changed over into his name. It was originally, the executor was supposed to be my ex-wife, because she was the only one trustworthy in the family.
That's fine. You're right. You're correct. It was, Your Honor. And I have a copy of the will my mother wrote and my father wrote before they passed,
see it.
and then the
What
copy
does
my
it
dad
indicate?
wrote before
Because when
my
I
mother
asked you
passed
for the
away.
copy of the will
what
from
is it
Mom, you told me you didn't have it
What
anymore.
is it you want me to see in the will?
Well, he's trying to say that the will I coerced my dad into changing his will at the time of Mother's passing. Those are the original copies of the original wills they wrote when they were both alive, and this is the one my dad wrote after he died, which has no change in none of the wording.
Hold on. No disrespect,
That's
but
all
he
right.
can't write anything after he
No,
died.
I mean before he passed. I'm sorry, Your Honor. He changed after my mother passed away.
All right.
Then my dad rewrote his will, and it's identical to the two wills that they had written already.
Okay.
So, nice try. Your
What?
mom and dad would be sick.
He didn't
I got
leave
a question
you
for you,
anything.
John. Does being clean
Sir.
include using methamphetamine still? Because
How
you've got a
much did he
prescription
leave
for
you?
it.
Huh?
How much did they leave
They left
you?
me all. They left me all their assets.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. And I've been meeting their wishes. I've been making copies of pictures and giving what they indicated to me to give to the grandchildren and whatnot.
Let me see what they say about you, Theodore.
Said that I owed $7,000.
Hold on. Say, listen to this. Theodore, you still have not paid me back the $7,092 that you owe. So you can consider this your inheritance. What y'all moaning and groaning about out there? If I'm on my way out and my son hadn't paid me and he act crazy on me and been getting high back and forth and hadn't never listened and followed my direction, and I'm going to tell him that's his inheritance too. You keep that little money you conned me out of. What do you think of that?
I have no problem with that. I've made the mistakes in my past, and I have to own those today.
Okay. I direct that as soon as practical after my death, the executor named pursuant to this will, which is you, will review all of my just debts and obligations, including last illness and funeral expenses. Executor shall pay these debts. Sir, it orders you to pay them. It orders you to pay the funeral expenses from the estate monies, which were all left to you. Your $4,200 counterclaim is for what?
The $4,200 is for the conversation that myself, my father had had, and then the conversation myself, my father, and John had had in regards to me getting my license.
How does he owe you for it, though?
That was, Dad said
Are you
that
suing
he
the
had,
estate?
Right, Dad said that he had wanted that to come out of his account.
You have that in the will or anything?
No, that was a verbal agreement between the three of us.
I can't enforce verbal agreements regarding an estate. So I'm going to have to grant him his unpaid loan that you agree you owe $1,500. I won't grant you your funeral expenses. The will indicates that you were to pay the funeral expenses, not him. He got his ahead of time, if you will, on the $7,200 that he borrowed. And your claim is dismissed, sir, regarding the breach of contract. Judgment for the plaintiff. Have a good day.
I wore this attire because I wore it when my dad passed away, and as of today, my brother's now passed away, so that's why I wore this attire to a funeral and now another funeral, because as far as I'm concerned, him and his Lion sponsor are done.
Man, you are a piece of work.
Yeah, this is the guy.
You need to get clean.
You need to get clean.
Dude, I own a business in Seattle, Washington.
you got
that's
drug addicts in
successful.
You're the
your
one
house.
that's still doing
wow.
dope, John.
Or am I doing
You have a
dope?
prescription for the same dope you were using
Do
on
ya?
the street.
Really?
Yeah, methamphetamine salts.
Sounds good. You mad because you lost your case?
No,
It's
I'm
my
not
fault.
mad.
Your parents would be disgusted because you're such a piece of
You're a
Mom
con
was
man.
disgusted with
From
you because
them?
you were a piece of All you did was
Hey, you know
lie
that
and stuff
statue?
over-
It's
What
in a
about-
bag in pieces now. It's crumbled. Enjoy yourself. I have a nice
Yeah.
life.
Your
Yourself.